Now a Black History Month special, sponsored by Finlay Toyota.
Welcome to this Bridging the Divide special as we celebrate Black History Month 2022. I'm Alicia Patillo. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll celebrate important moments of Black history in Las Vegas and showcase people making a difference here in our community every day. From a man who's on a mission to combat bullying across the valley to a North Las Vegas woman writing her own rules and redefining what it means to be a Black woman in law.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Known in the 89106 as Big Keith.
Oh, the 89106, pretty much, this is my home now. I've been here 20 years.
More than a decade ago, Keith Bowen set out to change the way kids feel by creating Bully Busters 702.
My whole thing was to get kids where we can communicate because the schools didn't have anything.
Bowen found inspiration for the program from past trauma, a time in his life when a friend he looked up to died by suicide as a result of bullying.
He worked with me for 2 weeks, got my grade from a 63 to a 75. Yay. 2 weeks later, Matt committed suicide. Week after that, I lost my mother, then my dad committed suicide. So in that whole month span, I lost 3 good people. And it was always in the back of my head that I was with this guy and I didn't know it. That's just like you being with your friend all this time and then something happens and you'd be like, wow, I didn't even know it. So
Bowen turned his pain into purpose and vowed to be a light in underserved communities by becoming a mentor, starting right here in the heart of the historic West Side at his clothing store on West Owens. He also built a space for kids to have a safe haven, a radio, and a hotline for those in pain.
And then I go around to the Boys and Girls Club, I go to churches, I go wherever I'm needed.
While this store has been a foundation here in the community for 2 years, Keith is now expanding across the street. He's now opening Keith Bowen's Art and Technical Educational Institute.
This is going to be unbelievable because we have things in the community for everybody that they need now. So even if you need rent, even if you need food, GED, whatever you need, it's going to be one stop there.
Bowen's becoming the change he hopes to see in our community.
We have a parent say, thank you for giving my kid's life back. That's priceless.
On West Owens on the historic West Side, I'm Alicia Patillo reporting.
I hope that there's more access to creating a robust narrative about Blackness.
Books, pencil boxes, backpacks, and stickers are just the beginning for Shauna Wells. She wants her initiative to go beyond tangible goods like these, and more so to change mindsets.
We're looking at walls and we're seeing pictures of people, and it's the same 4 Black people over and over again. And there are millions of us doing beautiful and creative things.
Shauna is the founder of B is for Black Brilliance, an organization and a movement that promotes an array of positive Black figures in learning resources for children.
The stories of Blackness are told in deficit or struggle or pity. And that became a point of frustration for me as I was working to teach children and working with senior leaders in education to try and draw on examples of Black brilliance.
Shauna was a teacher in North Las Vegas and then a principal in her hometown of Philadelphia. And throughout the years, she recognized a simple but very significant need when one of her students pointed out that the library was missing something.
He picked up the Diary of the Wimpy Kid book, which he loved. He read over and over again. And he said, but what if the character really centered someone who was Black?
She remembers that as a child, even she didn't have access to Black heroes in fiction and nonfiction stories. Shauna knew that she had to change the culture of the classroom. She returned to the Valley as a leader in education.
Even in fiction books, as we think about who we put in front of our kids, we could be way more intentional.
Today, she's found a solution in B is for Black Brilliance, so that all children feel represented in literature. And she hopes that the legacy of Black people is embraced by families of all backgrounds.
So I'm with Finlay Automotive Group, and we heard about what you're doing from Channel 13, and role models are so important for people. And so we just wanted to support you guys and highlight you as our Vegas Stronger champion.
Wow.
And so just give you this token of our appreciation and support.
Thank you so much
for what you're doing.
I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Rachel Moore, 13 Action News.
I thought first about my identity as a Black woman.
In Seeing Seen, professor and curator Erica Vitale-Lazar invites us to share the company of Black women.
I wanted to fill up whatever space I was allotted with imagery that reflected us in all of our glory, All of our hard work travails resilience and joy. And so this exhibit, Seeing Seen, is purely born of that impetus.
For the exhibit, Erica tapped artist Kushandra James to create a commissioned piece honoring 3 women she knew had to be included, but who she had only ever read about in historical texts.
They were 3 enslaved women.
The mothers of gynecology.
Betsy and Arca and Lucy were actually subjects to medical experimentation at the hands of Dr. J. Marion Sims.
Records show he operated on them and dozens of other enslaved women without their consent and without anesthesia. It's horrific, but their story is also one of extreme resilience.
They learned how to tend their own wounds. They learned how to assist him in surgeries. So in many ways, they became surgeons.
And that's the story Kushandra wanted to tell in her piece titled Black Saints, Gynecology.
There was no record of what they looked like. There was no portraits. He didn't describe them. I didn't want to make up a face. I didn't feel like that would properly honor them. So I wanted to make the halo behind their heads extremely bright, so the features would be distorted, but you can tell that they're African American women.
She also did something she's never done before.
I wanted to uplift them by giving them a uniform.
After some research, she made one, sewing for the very first time. Right next to these pieces is a contemporary photograph of a young woman.
We see human anatomy in one of the books that this figure, Ariel Hall, was able to study human anatomy, to go to medical school, to use the human anatomy in her art, in any expression that she so chooses.
The exhibition spans across mediums and time periods and celebrates modern sports icons.
Asia is adorned in these pearls,
as well as women that came before them. This portrait of Flojo was used as a cover for Newsweek.
What I love about it, the bright coloration, again, the celebration of color, but she's also got her nails done. Pearls are on. Hair, is just impeccable.
In Seeing Seen, it hangs on a bright pink and orange wall painted for the exhibition.
The way that we change the space once we enter it, I think, is very much a part of the Black woman's story.
You can catch Seeing Seen for one more week at the Barrick Museum. It's by the library on UNLV's main campus. There is no cost to enter. Learn more on ktnv.com/art. I'm Amy Abdel-Sayed.
Past, present, and future. Kwame Mason is on a mission to show you those who brought some soul to the ice.
It's dedicated to Willie O'Ree, the first Black athlete to play in the National Hockey League in 1958.
Inside this massive trailer lies inspiration. You'll find the faces of people who've shaped hockey's history and the reactions of those inspired by it.
When you have a museum like this and you have people coming through, to see young girls of color stand here and look at all this is very special, because I think that's going to be our future.
This museum on wheels travels across the nation, educating fans about the impact of Black players in hockey along the way.
I always thought that the best way to grow the game, especially in the minority communities, is to make sure that we normalize Black faces and voices in the game of hockey, something that's never really been done. So what we're doing is trying to educate people to know a little bit more of our history and make sure that our story is just as inclusive as any other story.
From Toronto to Nashville to Detroit and now Las Vegas, hockey's story is being told in more than 24 cities and counting.
When I go on the tour with the truck and people come and they ask me questions, and when they say I didn't know that, that's what's beautiful, because we're all on this earth to learn and to get something new, and to be able to help curate something as powerful as this, to teach people something more and new about the game of hockey, is going to be always satisfying.
We'll be back with more of Bridging the Divide special after the break.
Proud wife of a Special Forces soldier.
I'm United States Army retired Sergeant First Class from the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Senior Airman, United States Air Force.
To all of our veterans, we stand behind you and acknowledge the sacrifices that you have made. At Scripps, we strive to be an employer of choice for reservists, transitioning veterans, and their families by offering programs for transferable skills. See where Scripps can take you.
Two of the most recognized, trusted news anchors and journalists in Southern Nevada, with more than 50 years experience combined, now together to keep you more informed and connected in the Valley. Dave Cavassier, Trisha Keene, now at 5, 6, and 11 on 13 Action News.
I love coming up here. That's why I know it's important to have an accurate, reliable forecast, so you and your family can get out and make the most of your day too.
Real weather from real people. Danny Beckstrom, part of the 13 First Alert Weather Team, only on 13 Action News. Look into the faces of those who live here and you'll see it. A powerful spirit and pride you won't see anywhere else. Friends and neighbors coming together to help and offer hope to those in need. Building for the future, taking care of one another. Here we celebrate life and rise to every challenge. We are different, we are diverse, we are strong, and we share a common goal. Working hard to make our city in the desert the best place to call home. Together, we bring out the best in us. Together, home is Las Vegas.
If you look around, you'll find them.
Stories about people doing extraordinary things right here in our city.
We've persevered because we've counted on each other and we've worked together.
People helping others. Pitching in when someone else is down and needs a hand getting back up.
Getting a stuffed animal that'll make them feel like they're loved by other people.
Inspirational stories that'll make you laugh and smile.
We call these stories Positively Las Vegas.
Only on 13 Action News, and now streaming on your favorite device. 13 Action News' Zora Asbury.
If there's one thing that I know, it's guiding drivers through traffic. Now, I may be new to town, but I'll make sure you have the smoothest route ahead. Count on me every morning. I'm checking roads, keeping an eye on all those trouble spots, showing you the best way to get around quickly and safely. If you're driving to work, school, or just running errands, I've got your back.
Zora Asbury's Problem Solver Traffic on Good Morning Las Vegas, weekdays starting at 4:30.
Welcome back to the Bridging the Divide special. For more details on the stories you are watching today, visit ktnv.com/bridgingthedivide.
Well, we continue looking into the past, the present, the future for Black History Month. An important piece of Black history still stands tall on the historic West Side. The Harrison House is where Black musicians and performers would stay after being told they weren't allowed to spend the night on the Las Vegas Strip.
Anchor Zora Asbury got a chance to step inside the past and see what the home's purpose is today.
Protecting the past and preserving the future. That's the goal and mission of the Harrison House today. Its current owners hoping that this piece of Black history helps educate people for generations to come.
So you see the sign that says Historic West Side? Yes. Okay, that is Bonanza Road. Bonanza Road was the legal boundary between the Black and the white community during the segregationist period of Las Vegas.
Back then, the historic West Side was the place to be.
It's a gathering place for famous entertainers who would be performing at the Sands Hotel or the Tropicana, but they weren't allowed to stay there. So Mrs. Harrison opened up a guest home for those entertainers.
Now, the Harrison House sits along the Pioneer Trail, a relic of Black excellence here in Las Vegas in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Its history preserved, all because of this woman, Executive Director and Secretary Catherine Duncan.
How do we sustain the house into the future? Like, who pays the bills? What happens here? You know, how do we, not only, what kind of business is going to run from here? And with the other structures in the neighborhood, are they important historic buildings or should they be torn down? Those are the kind of questions we're grappling with today. So if you had come into Harrison House in 1942, you would have been brought into this room. Now, this was the sitting room. If you got into a person's sitting room, they would talk to you and get to know you. And if they liked you, then they would invite you over into the living room. So let's go in the living room.
As I walked from the sitting room to the living room, I couldn't help but admire the photos on the wall of stars like Sammy Davis Jr. and Nat King Cole. Old memories of the Moulin Rouge. Goosebumps raised on my skin as I took in the rich history that once stepped foot on the property that still sits at 1001 F Street today.
It was listed in the Negro Motorist Traveler's Guide in 1949, the Green Book. So they had a listing in that book, so she had to be doing well to be able to advertise to travelers across America. In the 1940s, having a one-bedroom suite with its own self-contained shower and walk-in closet, I mean, this house was an amazing home. I read about how it had marble tile floors and Persian rugs, and it had all of the amenities that any Las Vegas Strip hotel would have. It was just on the wrong side of town.
So if you wanted to sit down with Sammy Davis Jr. or hang out with Harry Belafonte, you had to leave the Strip.
You can see from the West Side News 1947, she had a spaghetti dinner here with the elites. Not just black people, but the elite people in the city. So she was, high society.
Over time, the historic West Side has seen its ups and downs, including some wanting to get rid of the house.
Why do you want to keep all those old raggedy buildings over there? I've heard that a lot. Why don't you just tear that stuff down and start over? And I go, oh, why would we tear down everything, and erase any foundation that we've had as a people?
We are continuing to honor Black history makers from past, present, and future. Today, the Clark County Commission celebrated the first Black Metro police officer. The commissioners honored Herman Moody during their meeting today. Now, Moody joined the force back in 1946. He retired in 1977. His great-nephew says it was an uphill battle for Moody. However, through it all, he helped inspire.
It's awesome. I think sometimes we always look for like this big superhero as a black man to be a hero, but like you have heroes in your community. So it's super important to know, like, hey, any kid that grew up in Vegas, no matter what you black or any color, you can accomplish any dream that you want or that you have. And he pretty much signifies that, as saying like, hey, like I did it, you can do it.
Commissioners called Moody a trailblazer, and he broke the mold for a lot of officers to follow in his footsteps.
She's battle-born. I grew up in the area of Las Vegas Boulevard and Pecos. Most people would associate that area with the Broadacre swap meet. Carving a legacy of her own. She who wears the crown head is heavy. And just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. Belinda T. Harris is the woman behind the gavel.
All right, North Las Vegas Justice Court is for an increased general session. Honorable Judge Belinda T. Harris presiding. Good morning, everyone.
Making history as the first Black elected judge in North Las Vegas Justice Court. For North Las Vegas, the community at large here, it was a big deal. It was one of those things like, if I can't win where I grew up at, nobody can win. Harris took her seat in January of 2021. Her passion for law began in the North Las Vegas neighborhood where she grew up. When I grew up in that neighborhood, there was a lot of injustice, and I always thought that it was because people didn't have money, and so they weren't being treated correctly by the system. And so at that time I said, I'm going to do something to change that. So I started out my career as a public defender. This is the history of the North Las Vegas Justice Court. As a public defender, Judge Harris passed by these pictures every day, and she knew what it would take to take her place on the bench. As I was being a public defender, I noticed that I was making change, but I had to do something a tad bit different to make the impact that I really wanted to see. So I decided to put my name on the ballot. Now she's in position to be the change and the first to do so. I'm excited because I am being a trailblazer. I am letting people know you can do this. This is obtainable. And I'm looking forward to the people who will come after me. Belinda T. Harris is the bold, tough, and honest one, fighting for her community while writing her own rules and redefining Black women in law. I have this James Bowen quote, and it says, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by those who are doing it." Alicia Patillo, reporting from North Las Vegas.
We'll be back with more of Bridging the Divide special after the break.
Proud wife of a Special Forces soldier.
I'm United States Army retired Sergeant First Class from the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Senior Airman, United States Air Force.
To all of our veterans, we stand behind you and acknowledge the sacrifices that you have made. At Scripps, we strive to be an employer of choice for reservists, transitioning veterans, and their families by offering programs for transferable skills. See where Scripps can take you.
Two of the most recognized, trusted news anchors and journalists in Southern Nevada, with more than 50 years experience combined, now together to keep you more informed and connected in the Valley. Dave Cavassier, Trisha Keene, now at 5, 6, and 11 on 13 Action News.
I love coming up here. That's why I know it's important to have an accurate, reliable forecast so you and your family can get out and make the most of your day too.
Real weather from real people. Danny Beckstrom, part of the 13 First Alert Weather Team, only on 13 Action News. Look into the faces of those who live here and you'll see it. A powerful spirit and pride you won't see anywhere else. Friends and neighbors coming together to help and offer hope to those in need. Building for the future, taking care of one another. Here we celebrate life and rise to every challenge. We are different, we are diverse, we are strong, and we share a common goal. Working hard to make our city in the desert the best place to call home. Together, we bring out the best in us. Together, home is Las Vegas.
If you look around, you'll find them.
Stories about people doing extraordinary things right here in our city.
We've persevered because we've counted on each other and we worked together.
People helping others. Pitching in when someone else is down and needs a hand getting back up.
Getting a stuffed animal that'll make them feel like they're loved by other people.
Inspirational stories that'll make you laugh and smile.
We call these stories Positively Las Vegas.
Only on 13 Action News, and now streaming on your favorite device. 13 Action News' Zora Asbury.
If there's one thing that I know, it's guiding drivers through traffic. Now, I may be new to town, but I'll make sure you have the smoothest route ahead. Count on me every morning. I'm checking roads, keeping an eye on all those trouble spots, showing you the best way to get around quickly and safely. If you're driving to work, school, or just running errands, I've got your back.
Zora Asbury's Problem Solver Traffic on Good Morning Las Vegas, weekdays starting at 4:30.
Welcome back to the Bridging the Divide special. For more details on the stories you are watching today, visit ktnv.com/bridgingthedivide.
So I was born in a place called Ahoskie, North Carolina.
She came from a family of 10, born to sharecroppers.
We actually lived on property and worked on property owned by a white family.
Claytie White found her way out of the countryside through education in Los Angeles.
One of the very first things I did after being there for about a year was re-enroll in school.
After living 22 years in LA, she headed south to Las Vegas for a new start.
My small place was near UNLV, and sometimes I would walk through campus, and I thought, wow, I think this is what I want to do. So I started making phone calls to UNLV, enrolled in a master's program eventually.
Her master's program opened the door to her destiny and oral history. She immersed herself in all things Vegas, past and present, and a special assignment drew her to the Black community.
I wrote a thesis to get my master's degree, and that thesis started my research in the Black community. Of course, you can't research the Black community without researching the whole community. So unlike American history, I included everyone in the history as I did my research.
And her work didn't stop there. White and 5 others founded the Las Vegas Black Historical Society, a hub for those looking to learn more about the Valley's Black community. At the time White finished her master's degree, UNLV did not have an oral history program. It wasn't until the university found funding for the program
that the center came to be in 2003. Today, the OHRC conducts interviews and serves as a real-time history book for Las Vegas and Southern Nevada. Clay T. White is the go-to history guru in every community, a pioneer in Black culture, and a shining light in academia.
I want the people who come after me to learn the history. I want them to learn the history of the entire city and then learn the value of people of color in this community.
I'm Rachel Moore, and on this day in Black history, February 2nd, 1897, Alfred L. Crawley was working as a porter in a Pittsburgh hotel. He noticed ice cream servers found it difficult to get the treat onto the cone for customers, so Crawley invented a device we know today as the ice cream scoop. Hundreds of years later, ice cream parlors like Philly Freeze-Me still use a version of the mold and disher. The handcrafted Freezy shop on Rainbow and Russell scoops up original flavors created by founder Chase Corbin.
When I was 11, 12 years old, my mom had bought me a cart and I would work it outside of her job. I only had like 3 flavors. I think it was blueberry, cherry, and lemon.
Corbin now serves 60 flavors at his 2 Philly Freeze-Me shops in Las Vegas, an inventor himself like Crawley.
Thanks so much for watching this Bridging the Divide special. If you missed any part of this segment, just hit the back button on your remote and scroll down until you see KTNV Digital Exclusives. Stay tuned for more from 13 Action News after the break. And check us out anytime here on KTNV Streaming Las Vegas News on your time.